I hope it works. Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Sam. This is Crystal. She is super excited to be here tonight. And I'm just recognizing now, as usual, like I'm looking at the screen and I think you read it right. I'm looking at the words behind us. They're like, those are backwards. But I think you get to read them right. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
So this is after a long day of work, and Crystal is joining us. And tonight we get the opportunity, or whenever you watch this, the opportunity to get to know Crystal and what she's all about. The cool thing about, and the only one I've done so far, where I haven't given her just like, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. Like there hasn't been questions or anything. It just she's just like, you're going to ask me what you're going to ask me. So sweet. And so we'll start off real easy, Crystal.
Okay.
Where are you originally from?
I was born in Wisconsin, actually,
Where specifically?
in Fond du Lac.
Ooh.
I was born in Fond du Lac.
Okay, where'd you go to school?
I went to school in Wisconsin for all of 3.5 years.
Okay. So where'd you spend most of your times in school? Did you bounce around a lot?
Yeah.
Most of your time?
The biggest chunk of time I ever did was in Georgia, in Dublin, Georgia. I went there for my high school years. That's the longest stint I ever did at one school.
She says stint. It makes me think of like a prison sentence. I don't think it was it?
No, but that's the longest period of time I ever spent at one school.
So was school fun and easy for you?
No.
Why not?
Because I was always the new kid and I was trying to fit in, and I would go somewhere and they would be way ahead of where I was or way behind, and trying to fit in and meet new people, because most of the schools I went to were kids that had gone there their whole lives, and so it was constantly having to change myself to fit in to the boxes.
And kids are really nice, right?
Oh yeah, so nice.
So you can tell by the eye roll, a bit of sarcasm there. Okay, so you spent a lot of time traveling around doing that kind of stuff. Then once you get to college,
Mm-hmm.
what's the next step? What do? You go to college?
Yep, I did go to college.
What'd you get? What was your degree in?
I double degreed, so I did culinary arts and then a degree in science and baking and pastry.
Okay, so what kind of certification does that get you?
So I have a degree in science of baking and pastry.
So could you be a teacher?
Yes, because I also got my teaching degree when I went to the UK.
All right, so I know like a lot more. I just don't know the like exact transitions of how she got to what and where she was.
So I went to college in Charleston and I did 4 years in 2 because I wanted to get in and out. And they said as long as I kept my grades up, they would allow me to do it. So I did an advanced program and got out in 2 years. And then I went to the United Kingdom for my internship and ended up staying. And then sort of 4 years into my career there, I really knew as a chef I needed to know how to teach, because you are working with people every day and having to teach them, especially in pastry. It's really, really difficult, a lot of science, and you have to have a lot of patience. And so I felt like I really needed to know how to teach properly. So then I decided to go to uni there to get my teaching degree. And then I taught in the culinary program in the college there, and then the students would come and do their internships with me within the company I worked for.
So that's a lot of extra work.
Yeah.
So you like to keep busy?
Yeah. Some would say it's an illness.
An illness. We'll get to that a little bit later, probably. So what are things you enjoy doing? What's your number one thing?
My number one thing, I like being outside walking. I miss the mountains in Wales. I really miss that. It's hard to find around here. The scenery and being able to go out your back door and have a mountain to climb. Um, but I like to be my feet in the earth. I like to have my hands in the earth. It calms me when I don't know what to do with myself or I'm anxious or anxiety. I'll go and dig in the dirt.
So if any of you need help around the house outside, digging in the dirt, just call Crystal up. She'd be more than happy to come on over and dig in the dirt. But cool. Okay. So tell me about family. Who's hanging out with you? Who are your people? Who are your girls?
Oh, my daughters?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have 3 daughters. Lily is my eldest. She just turned 13. She's in 8th grade. And then I have a Poppy. She is 10 and just started middle school. She's in 5th grade at Riverview. And then Surrey is my youngest, and she's 7 and just started 2nd grade.
Teenager.
Yep.
Teenager. So any of you that are watching, any kind of advice to deal with a teenager? Hopefully Lily's not. I mean, Lily, you're not. No.
She's not watching.
The more, the better, right? Advice. How do we do this together? So, 3 girls. What's the best part of having your children?
Each of them teaches me something about myself on a daily basis. They each totally have a purpose and have taught me major life lessons. And the best part of them is just what they bring to every single day. They're the way they are when they tell a story, the excitement, the way their faces light up all the time. I love it. I definitely love being a mom.
Cool. I love it. So love being a mom. I'm just trying to think so for Crystal and I, Crystal has been a part of Crew, which is our youth group. And so the past year and now going into our 2nd year, right? And so that's been really beneficial for me because she's just a rock star as far as loving on the kids and especially the kids in our small group. A bunch of now 6th and 7th grade girls. And at one time there was probably 13 to 15 ish girls that she was really spending quite a bit of time with. And so where does that come from as far as wanting to, you talk about your daughters, but then wanting to be able to help with Crew?
I just feel like I've said this last night. I think my life purpose is to water as many flowers as I can, so to say. I want people to see the best version of themselves. I want them to know that they are beautiful, and I want to help them grow into the best flower they can be. And I think I've done that quite well with my 3 girls up to this point, and I feel like the kids that come to Crew, a majority of them just need to be watered, and they just need somebody to listen and to be there and to tell them they're great, and to really just be interested. And I just feel like I have so much love in me for children, and it's a really soft spot in my heart that helping with Crew, it's just to see them light up and they get excited that you want to listen to them and you want to hear what they have to say is super great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it just makes me feel really, really good all the time. And it's fun because I get to be a kid, and within my profession, everything has to be perfect and you have to be perfect. And I find when I come to Crew, I definitely don't have to be perfect. I am not very good at any of the games. Definitely cannot do a cartwheel. But I try. and it gives all the kids definitely something to laugh at, and I'm okay to be the one being laughed at.
So we had a parents meeting last night, and Krista was there, kind of sharing similar things that we're talking about tonight, which is pretty funny. And Aaron obviously shared about that, so thanks for giving that shout out. But Krista does an amazing job, and she doesn't give herself enough credit. But what the cool part is on a Wednesday night when we do crew is that Crystal brings in her her passion on a daily, right? Working with chocolate and those things into having conversations with their kids, having conversations with the group overall, which I think is really powerful because it's allowing our kids, it's building that foundation of communication, of community. And Crystal just models that so well. And just the vulnerability, even though she's always trying to get the kids away from like games and that kind of stuff, she's always trying to do something else other than that because that's not her thing. But she rocks it. And we're talking about this since COVID, so we're not going to be doing most of this stuff anyways. But yeah, it's just cool to see Crystal in that zone and just being vulnerable and in front of our 5th grade to 12th grade students and crew. So within that, Crystal, and just kind of getting some of those bases, your faith story, and really wanted to get to that, and even I think about how we just jumped into it. I just jumped in because I was like, I don't know. I didn't even explain, around the table, and just that we want people within the church to get to know Crystal and the people of New Life, so that we can put names and faces and understand where we're coming from, and maybe some of the celebrations as well as some of the low points in our lives, and we can be able to pray for each other within that. And then also the next question is going to be really that faith story, Crystal, of where did faith really start in your life? Religion, being a Christian, everyone has a little bit different story. Where did that start for you?
Well, when I was young, my happiest times were when I was at my grandma's house, my grandma Schwind, and every Sunday we went to church. She was Catholic. So I went to church with her and my grandfather, and it was very sit in the pew and don't say anything and don't make any noise and listen. Mm-hmm. And so it was very uncomfortable because it felt very formal and you couldn't ask questions and you couldn't say anything. And it was a lot of pressure as a young child. So that wasn't the best first glance at what a relationship with Christ should be for me. But then after, we always would go to eat somewhere, and then my grandfather would drive around for like 3 hours, and we would look at farmers' crops, and he would like swerve off the road. And I loved that part where we got to just be together. And my family was not Christ followers at all. My grandfather was had the closest relationship with Christ out of anyone. And I lived with my mother a majority of my life. And then when I was a freshman in high school, there was a youth group. So my mom joined a church, a Baptist church in the South, and they had a youth group, and I started going. And it was more relaxed, where we went to school together, and we had Wednesday night supper, and we would meet like 3 times a week and have breakfast at Burger King. And
healthy, like it.
Yeah. And then things didn't go so well for me my senior year, and one of the families from the church actually took me in so that I could at least graduate high school. And if I hadn't have been in youth group and known that family, that would not have been an opportunity for me. And it was at a crucial point in my senior year where if I would have transferred back to here, I would have had to repeat my senior year. So I feel like God sort of gave me that family for a purpose, and I ended up graduating, and then I went to college, and it was very just work and get all the schooling done. And Definitely did not have a relationship with Christ through college. It was very, I just want to do this as fast as I can. And then I went to Wales and I had the most, the strangest group of friends. It was 8 women and we were completely opposite ends of the spectrum. We had a priestess, we had an atheist, we had um, I was a believer. We had a couple of hippies that were very natural, Mother Earth, but we were all best of friends and supported each other within all of our ventures and never judged, and just loved each other fully. And it was there. In Wales, you really only had, in my village, you only had 2 churches. So you had the Church of Wales, and then you had the church where it really wasn't a religion. It was more, it was very strict, lot of rules and structure, and that sort of didn't call to me. I wanted to go to the Church of Wales because that's where most of the village went, and they had a mother's group for us, which was phenomenal. So we met 3 times a week, and the older women of the church would make us tea and make us a snack, and we would hang out, and they would ask us what problems we were having as mothers and how could they help and support, and did we need advice, and the kids would play, and we just were together as a group of women, and none of us were really friends outside of church, but we had that circle the entire time I lived in Wales. We all were, I was a part of that group and went to church there, and it still wasn't, I've kind of felt like my whole life, like I don't fit anywhere. Like I haven't found my place. I didn't feel like I fit in Wales because I wasn't Welsh and I didn't speak the language fully. And I felt like I didn't belong. And then I came back here and I'm having a hard time feeling grounded because haven't lived here for 19 years, and you see people from high school and they're still stuck in this high school way and they haven't much moved on from that. And so I'm not really interested in that. And then I came to New Life and I don't know, I find since coming to New Life, I came and I dove in and gave it my all, and then I walked away for a minute, and then I was driving home one day and God said to me as clear as day, you need to go back. And I argued with him in the car and I was like, but I don't want to. And he's like, but I'm telling you, you need to. And I said, okay, then I'm going to listen. And I'm glad I did, because then I walked through probably, and am walking through one of the hardest things in my life. And I feel like probably in the last 2 years, my relationship with God has become stronger than ever before. Like I have actual conversations with him and go to him with the day-to-days. And I used to let everything weigh on me and I would stuff it in my feet. And I've found, and like my job was probably my number one thing on my list. And now it's like that my wheel has completely turned, and I wake up every day and thank God, and I talk to him on my way to work, and I talk to him while I'm at work, and how can I be better? How can I support my women better? How can I be a better mom? And it's really changed all of my outlooks on my life and really what is important.
So is it safe to say that God speaking out to you, you hearing, or that voice that you believe is God, right, speaking out to you, you kind of, maybe, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say this because she might slap me on this, but you might be a little stubborn?
Oh yeah, I'm stubborn.
Okay. So you finally listened, right? I mean,
yeah.
And then what you're saying, you walk through the most difficult spot in your life, And through that most difficult spot, through that, you were able to really develop this relationship.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm asking within that, do you think it took the most difficult situation for you to finally look at it differently?
Yes, most definitely. Because if I didn't have Christ through the last year of my life, I would not have made it through the way I have.
Mm-hmm.
3 months ago, I was in the depths of winter, and now I feel like definitely rolling through spring and coming into summer and very comfortable in the place that I'm in. And it's really, really hard. Is it what I planned for myself or what I wanted? No. But every time I have any kind of doubt about the choice that I've made or what has happened, God just keeps pushing me forward. It's okay, I've got you, and puts total light on that I've made the right decision for myself and my daughters.
Mm-hmm. So if I'm listening, I'm hearing the depths of the winter 3 months ago, and I'm like, what? Winter wasn't 3 months ago. So can you just kind of what did you mean by depth of winter in that to spring?
I just felt so incredibly sad and broken, and why does this keep happening to me, and why does God, why? Like, why is it trial after trial after trial? Why can't anybody just love me for me? Why, why mom and then dad and then family and then husband? But then somewhere in it, I found that I'm worth it, and he has something bigger in store for me, and it's not going to be today or tomorrow or anytime soon, but there is a bigger purpose of my goodness, and I just have to be patient for that to come, what I'm meant to do.
Yeah, thank you. And so I asked that stuff, and I believe I can go there as Crystal hasn't left yet, which is pretty awesome. And I share that, and I ask that because so many of us are in that pit. Or Aaron talked about months ago, maybe weeks ago, of just that, and shared a couple of messages. And if you haven't heard it, guys, I encourage you to go back and listen to Aaron of the messages on loneliness and how reaching out to God and how God is there. And I want to let you know that, like, just being able to get to know Krista over the especially the last 2 years, I've known her longer than that, but these past 2 years have been super impactful for me within her and her daughters. And I should really say my family, Kate, Tegan, Quinn, and Benaya, as well as myself, and that's been really huge for us. But it's in the brokenness that God can still use you, and He's going to use Crystal, myself, you. We have to allow it, right? And sometimes it takes that. I call it a pit. It takes the worst winter, the most ugliest situations for some of us to finally wake up, and some of us still don't. And God's grace, God's mercy is sufficient. And so for me personally, I could speak to that. Just I think about the crew leaders within Crystal and the rest of the leaders of our youth group. I've been able to see that firsthand of just the growth, the interaction they've had over the last year, just kind of walking through some really tough moments, some tough life, what life throws at us, right? And through what Crystal's sharing and many other people have shared and have walked together in that, they've put Christ at the forefront, at the center of it, and they have grown exponentially. Their fruit, right? Their fruit is ripe, is healthy, and their choices they're making are so much different, so much healthier than the old choices. And that's where I say stubborn and maybe even selfish. And those are both really trigger words for a lot of people. But I think I'm really stubborn and I'm really selfish, and I know Crystal is too. And that's not a dig. That is sin. And so, how do we continuously as Proverbs says, sharpen each other, right? As one sharpens another, we're going to continue to grow, and that's discipleship. So have you noticed, like, within this walk that you're walking and developing this relationship with God, have you noticed a difference within your girls?
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit?
My girls say, they never used to say this before, but when we're talking about like what's important, they'll always say, well, God's the most important thing. He's number one above everything else. And a couple years ago, that would not have been the first thing out of their mouths. And it's definitely brought us closer. But I find the more real and raw that I can be with my girls, the more real they can be with me, especially the teenager. It sometimes takes some digging and prodding and ugliness to get her to show her ugly. But we have a lot of conversations about, because my 9-year-old is witnessing what the 13-year-old is going through, and it's not always pretty in our house, and it's often very ugly to get to the pit of what Lily is going through or feeling. She's the eldest, but it's explaining that to the other two girls, that sometimes you have to go through the ugly to get to the beautiful, and that's okay. You don't have to be perfect all the time, and we still have trials every week. I think I have it figured out and it's getting better. And then one of them like hits a bottom. My 7-year-old will not sleep on her own right now. She sleeps with me most nights, and that is just something that we are having to work through. She's really afraid that I'm going to leave her. So we're working through that, and it's just being present with them and giving them what they need within this time, and not being selfish of my time and what I need, but just being their mom and strong and what they need.
That's awesome. Thank you. Is it hard to see, and this is something I'm walking through, and I've shared, right? I think I shared on Sunday, but also while you're walking through that with Lily, Poppy, and Suri, how hard is it to see them and really that reflection of that mirror of yourself within how they're acting?
It's hard.
What do you do with it?
You have to have chats with yourself. I have to check myself. Don't overshare, don't undershare. What is appropriate to share with them? To me, my rule of thumb's always been, if they're old enough to ask the question, then they're old enough to have the answer. It's trying to be still, although I have a lot of problems with their dad, still being respectful that he is their dad. He is still their parent. So that is really, it was very, very hard in the beginning. It's getting easier now. But it shows you the ugly parts of yourself. Your children are mirrors of you. So it really makes you self-reflect, and what do I need to be better at? What do I need to work on so that I can be a better mirror for them?
Yeah, cool. Is there, and I'm totally putting you on the spot, is there a verse, maybe a video, a devotional? Is there something that, and God is the center of it, is there something that you went to in that winter season, in the trial, in the depth of it, that you were able to was able to bring you back every time? Was there anything specific?
I actually did a book on my own that is a season book. So it's great, grace laced, and I started with fall and then went into winter kind of as I was going through winter, and then did the spring and the summer. And no, my emotions did not follow the book at all whatsoever. But it was something I did for myself every night. So I would put the girls to bed, and then I would go to bed and I would do a study by myself. And it was a lot of writing, and I wrote right in the book, because it helped to just it made you do a self-reflection and then a Bible study and then another reflection after the Bible study. And I started only listening to faith-based music at work because I spend a lot of time by myself in a room spraying chocolate. So I just decided that I was only going to listen to faith music while spraying and being on my own, because otherwise I found my mind would wander and then it would go to the ugly and then the unhealthy, where if I just listened to Christian music while I was on my own, I felt comforted. I didn't cry as much because that is the place where I would cry. People would often come in to ask questions and I would be sobbing because it was the only place I was like alone.
So let's take a quick timeout within there. I don't think you've shared it, so I haven't asked it. Where are you working? And talk about this. You're spraying things. Give us the down low on where you're at, what you're doing. You brought up my ladies at one point. Can you share who your ladies are? Those kind of things.
Yep. So I am a chocolatier for Kohler. So we're based, our storefront's the Cravery in Kohler. And I have a group of 4 women that I have spent the last 4 years with. And we have a very special relationship. We know everything about each other. We're of all different ages. So my right hand is just turned 40, and I am 40, gonna turn 41 this week. And then we had a girl that just left us to go start her own business, but she was 23. And then I have another one that's 22. And even though we're different walks of life, we've been there for each other through all of our stuff. And people look at us very strange because I'm the boss and they're the employees, but that's not the way I work. I would never ask anybody to do anything I'm not willing to do myself. I do the cleaning and the dishes and all those things just like everybody I'm with every day. And so, where we work, I have to spray all the molded pieces, all the pretty colors, but that means I spend a huge chunk of my day by myself in a room.
A soundproof room, that is.
Yeah, so it can get pretty.
So screaming, crying, messy?
In the beginning, yeah.
That's what we need, right? I mean, that's what you need, right? And I love the transparency, the vulnerability, and that of like, you have that opportunity and you're going in there and you are letting it rip. And yeah, people are going to walk in, but you've built that trust with them. And that has opened the door, in my opinion, to greater conversations with these ladies that are in your life. And you're modeling such community, such openness with them. In church terms, discipleship. I mean, you're doing that, you're modeling it, you're walking out with them, which is beautiful. And so I love to hear those stories. There's just a lot of things that like you and I talk about that like many people like have no idea. The many people of like 2 people that are watching this right now, but I have the many people that are gonna watch this later. Yeah, so I think that's important. And so like Crystal doesn't enjoy like being in like on this video right now, but like she is the face of the Cravery. Like she is like I love to embarrass her as much as I can at certain points. But like I don't know, I haven't Googled yet. If you Google Crystal Thomas, I mean there's probably like Kohler videos all over the place. She's kind of a big deal. Rich mahogany, never mind. But so super talented, right? And so we go back to like went to school for this, and she's putting to use all these different talents and all these different degrees that she has in different ways. She's not only doing it there at the Cravery, but she's also doing it here at New Life with the kids, with the adults, with families, which is super, super important. Looking back into that dark season, and not to spend a whole lot of time there, just something just still in a grayish season, still tough. If there's something that maybe you prayed for, you wish you could have had in that moment, in those moments to to help you walk through it, what would that have been, or who would that have been? I don't know if you understand the question.
My group of friends in Wales.
And why? Why would that have been important?
Because they would have loved on me and let me be ugly, and they would have helped with the kids. They would have sort of just swooped in and helped with damage control and taking the kids and cooking and just help.
So even if they were here, okay, would you have let down your guard enough to ask them for help?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
That particular group of ladies, yes.
And so I asked that, and I looked directly at her. And I can do this with Crystal, okay? And I'm doing this for a reason, because the hope in my prayer, honestly, is that whoever watches this and whoever's watching now, we learn and we can grow from our sister, our friend Crystal, our people here at New Life, right? And so in her weariest moments, she desired companionship of other women, and she was able to have that at one point. And I bring that up because that's my desire. That's God's desire for New Life, is how, as women, I would say the vast majority of women, Crystal, and I think you and I have had this talk, have very similar thoughts of loneliness, but we're always not so nice to each other, right? And so it's hard to be friends with other people, period, and really to share with what you even shared with me tonight in this video of people, right? This might be less because you don't see the other side of it, right? And so less intimidating to an extent there. And so I might be using Crystal as a guinea pig here a little bit, and I hope not. That's not how it's seen. But within that, it's like, I want to give you guys permission, and especially you women within that, to minimally pray for Crystal. But if you are walking through something so similar, I encourage you to reach out to Crystal, to me, to Aaron, to Lisa, here at New Life. And how can we connect women? And instead of sitting in the hurt and the misery and the anxiety and the stress in that winter depressive season, we're able to come around each other and really bring Christ at the center of that, who will build us up in our worst moments. And in our brokenness, he will be glorified in that if we choose him. So women, right, just to be there beside you, and I think that's super powerful. And for you guys, that's the same thing. I know plenty of guys that are in the exact same season that we're too prideful to acknowledge that, and we're just going to muscle through it. And it's like, I want to encourage you to tap out. I want to encourage you to ask for help. That's me. That's Aaron. Once again, that's whoever that is. And so I think this is so, in my opinion, this is so powerful in what Crystal has shared tonight. And I didn't know which way it was going to go, how we were going to get where we were going to get. Just praying that the Spirit led us within it, and just that bravery that you have, just sharing your story, bits and pieces of your story, because there's a lot more, right? And so how are we, and Crystal, I think, did a great job, and even Aaron kind of shared it, or just thanked her for it, of just sharing some of those really triggered moments in life, those really tough moments. And the more we get to know somebody, the more free, the more vulnerable they're going to potentially be, as long as we're being kind and compassionate and loving to one another. And those are hard things for us to do, right?
Yeah.
And yet you look at those 8 women, 7 women, 9 women, whatever it was in Wales, that's what they showed you, right? That's what you felt when you came around them. And that's, if I'm hearing you right, that's what you're seeking here.
Yeah. Just no expectation or judgment. You can be different and love each other, and you can come from different aspects and have different views and outlooks on life, because that's what makes it fun. Because I learned from those women every day, and they helped me be a better version of myself. We helped each other be better versions of ourselves, and we made mistakes and we messed up real bad. And that's when we would have a cup of tea and we would all get together and talk it through, and it was okay. Because we knew we could sort of make it through any trial, and we had probably almost all the trials
Sure.
on the table at one point in the 12 years. And but it was okay. And I find that's one of the hardest things about coming back. That's been one of the hardest trials for me coming back to the States, is that women are so different towards one another, and it hurts me inside. That it took me a long time to open the shells of the women I work with. But if I'm going to spend 10 hours a day with these women, we need to be close. We need to have a special relationship. And I just wish that women could see that it can look different, and we can water flowers and love each other versus picking out all the flaws and what isn't perfect about someone, because what someone is good at, another person isn't going to be good at. Like, I'm not very athletic, but Kate is. And she took me kayaking once, and I absolutely loved it. Like, loved it. It was connecting with the earth, and it was beautiful and calm and quiet and relaxing, and there wasn't any pressure, and there was no one saying mom, 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 and there could be real conversation, and it didn't feel uncomfortable. And her and I are very, very different in who we are as women, but I really enjoy Kate and I really love talking to her. So you don't have to be exactly like another woman to spend time with her and enjoy her company and have a relationship.
Yeah. You look at husbands and wives, you look at many of your best friends. A lot of the times, I would say almost every time, right? It works because you're different, right? But you're willing to fight for each other, right? Instead of against each other, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's super important. There was something I was going to ask within that. I can't think of it right now. So moving forward, what's God saying to you in life right now? What does He have in store for you moving forward? Anything different than you've walked through right now? What are you guys talking about right now?
Right now, a lot of it is what my life looks like as far as what I'm doing, like my work. I've never had this nudge. Sometimes and I'm being very stubborn because it's really scary, but I've been getting a lot of just walk away from it. And that petrifies me because I am the only earner in my household, and I have 3 daughters to take care of. But it's been for a couple months now. I've been getting a huge, like, this isn't your purpose. You need to just walk away. And that's really, really scary. So I'm really working through that right now.
Cool. So it sounds like whoever listens to this at any point, I'd encourage you to throw a comment down at any point throughout Saturday, Sunday, next year, if you're watching this, to throw an encouraging prayer down, whatever, for Crystal in this. But I'd encourage you that's a pretty cool prayer moment for whoever's watching this for Crystal. To be able to keep her in your prayers about what does God have in store for her in those next steps. Thank you for sharing that. I want to jump back to, you said it a couple of times, of it's okay to be different, right? And biblically speaking, we're called to be different as Christ followers, as people saying that we are desire to be in Christ, modeling Christ likeness, right? We are not going to be looking like this world. We're not going to sound like it. We're not going to feel like it. We're not going to act like it. And so I love what you're saying. Now, how do we bring it back to Christ? How do we bring it back to Jesus? How do we bring it back to the fruit of the Spirit, right? And how are we kind to each other, patient with one another, and how are we living that out with one another? And that is so different than what this world is. And we have that call as believers, as brothers and sisters in Christ, and we have that call here at New Life. And so I want to encourage whoever watches this once again to encourage you and really challenge you to take a step into the unknown in such a different way of not looking like everyone else. And I think about even the message that God put in my heart this past week of just forgiveness, and that in itself can be so different than everyone else, and just being able to forgive. I know that's something that I struggle with every day in different ways. And so God is speaking through me in different ways, and complete hypocrite in many of that, because I'm still walking through how to truly forgive through all the garbage I've walked through, right? And so we're human, right? And sin is real, but Jesus, God, the Holy Spirit is bigger. And so we're going to rest on him and him alone within that. So anything that you want to just share with, to end, do you want to just words of wisdom or anything?
The biggest thing I've learned over the last year, I would say, is don't stuff it in your feet. That's probably the most unhealthy thing I've done through my entire life up until the last year. I used to just stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff and then explode like a volcano. And that didn't serve me or anyone around me. And now I've learned to get things out straight away. So if something's bothering me at work, because I'm a super feeler, so I can walk into work and know when one person is not having a good day, and I'll take them in the hallway and be like, just get it out. Just tell me what's going on, and so we can move on with our day. And it feels a lot better to just get it out. And it doesn't matter if you do that with someone you work with or a friend, but get it out straight away, because then I've found since doing that, I have so much energy for all the other stuff day to day, and I don't have all this anxiety and anger inside, and I feel a lot lighter. And sometimes it's just getting it all to God. I had a really challenging day today in the corporate world, and on my way home, I talked about it with God, and I got home and I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do what they asked me to do. And I may not agree with it, but I'm just going to do it. And I'm not going to think about this anymore. And it's not going to eat me up inside like it would have done a year ago. And so it's just get stuff out, talk to somebody. And if you don't have anybody to talk to, I'm a really good listener. I like to listen. And I feel like I'm in a space where I can listen now.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Super feelers are real. Many of us don't even know we have that gift or curse, depending on. Some of us don't even, so we don't know it, and we just take on everyone else's junk, right? And so that's a whole nother conversation for a later time.
Yep.
But if you have questions about that, reach out to me, reach out to Crystal. Honestly, because it's real, and it can ruin an entire day or entire week, but that's wisdom. I love it. Thank you for ending us with that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed just getting to know a little bit about Crystal, in her words of wisdom here at the end. Love it. Actually, it was words of wisdom the whole time. So why don't we just end in prayer?
Okay.
Heavenly Father, I appreciate you. I'm so grateful. We are so grateful for you, Lord. You are so above our ways. Thank you for Crystal and bringing what she shared tonight, Lord. I pray that her story, her words are able to encourage someone else that's listening to this to take a step in their faith walk, and grow in their relationship with you. I pray over Crystal, and just ask, Lord, that you just continuously speak into her life, Lord, and just continuously protect her and her children. And I just lift them up to you, Lord. You have designed and created them as masterpieces, your masterpiece, perfect in your image, Lord. And I pray that they see that, they feel that, and they live more and more in that, in your image, each and every day, Father. And so I lift up this time. I lift up New Life. I lift up the women, the men come together and grow together for your kingdom, for your glory, Lord Jesus. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, guys. Have a great week. Toodles.